It's another bump in the road for Indiana's iStep Plus assessment program. At this week's State Board of Education meeting, Department of Education officials and iStep test vendor, CTV McGraw-Hill, said that there's a scoring glitch on the 2014-15 tests and that they will have to reprogram the scoring system. The Department of Education expects the problem to delay the board's establishment of cut scores by 1 month and could delay the determination of school A through F accountability until January or February of next year. Board member Carrie Wicker says she understands the frustration of parents and teachers who want the scores quickly, but says it's more important that the scores are right. Earlier this year, Governor Mike Pence ordered Department of Education officials to shorten the iStep Plus assessment after being told that the length of the test had doubled from around 6 hours to more than 12. Hoosiers who want the ability to effectively compete for high-tech jobs need to start preparing for those jobs in middle and high school. The Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics, or STEM Innovation Summer Institute, is helping region teachers prepare local students for the jobs of the future. This week, the 2015 STEM Summer Institute was held at Maryville Senior High School. 11 Northwest Indiana school corporations took part in the teacher training. Teachers performed experiments and were given exercises to perform in class to enhance their understanding of STEM and the role it plays in emerging jobs. The teachers are participating thanks to a federal mathematics and science partnership grant administered by the Indiana Department of Education to enhance STEM education. The week's activities offer educators a chance to design learning techniques across the math and science disciplines. They'll also be able to develop the next generation of science standards.
But there are few fields anymore that are untouched by STEM. And so we want to make sure that our students have the ability, that they have the attitudes, that they have the dispositions in order to succeed for themselves and certainly for the areas where they work.
The STEM Innovations Program is managed by College Acceleration Network in partnership with Purdue North Central. The program is serving more than 200 teachers in Northwest Indiana School Corporation in grades 7 through 9. Gary residents of all ages took advantage of the beautiful weather and took to the streets this week to celebrate National Night Out. Neighbors and children got to dance and eat hot dogs and burgers while getting to know local police a whole lot better. National Night Out is an annual community building campaign that promotes police-community partnerships in strong neighborhoods. The event aims to enhance the relationship between neighbors and law enforcement. It also provides a great opportunity to bring police and community together in a positive, fun environment. National Night Out is celebrated across the nation with block parties, festivals, parades, cookouts, and other various community events with safety demonstrations, seminars, youth events, visits from emergency personnel, and special exhibits. The event has been held annually on the first Tuesday in August since 1984. It's sponsored by the National Association of Town and Local Governments. The state of Indiana is coming up on an important milestone next year, and some deserving Northwest Indiana residents will get a chance to participate in a very special way. In 2016, Indiana will be celebrating 200 years of statehood, and the bicentennial will be commemorated with events all over the state, including one of the signature projects of the celebration, the Indiana Torch Relay. Torchbearers will carry specially designed bicentennial torches in an Olympic-style relay through all 92 counties. Well, now the LaPorte County Bicentennial Committee has announced that it's accepting torchbearer nominations from the public. Torchbearers will carry the torch through LaPorte County on October 8, 2016. Committee officials say nominations should recognize Hoosiers who demonstrate exceptional public service, excellence in their profession, acts of heroism, or volunteer service to their neighborhood, community, region, or state. Nomination forms can be found at any LaPorte County Public Library or online at www.indiana2016.org. The nomination period ends December 31st, 2015. The city of Crown Point is flooding its streets blue to say thank you. And the flooding of a local landmark aims to provide relief for some South Side residents. Those stories just ahead on Lakeshore Report.
Lakeshore Report wants to hear from you. Send your thoughts, concerns, questions, and story ideas to tvfeedback@lakeshorepublicmedia.org. You can also reach us on Facebook and Twitter at Lakeshore Report. Make sure to tweet us using the hashtag NWIPride and you may see your comments on air. Lakeshore Report, providing you region-focused content.
Crown Point is aglow this week with the color blue. It's all in an effort to show gratitude to the men and women who protect the city's residents every day. Lakeshore Report's Hillary Powell has more on the story.
voices singing and hand claps supporting the public servants whose service the audience at the steps of the old courthouse in Crown Point says is often met with silence.
Most of us as citizens have this luxury of being able to exist kind of in a bubble where we know that there are officers there who at any given moment would be willing to step between us and trouble. We know that, but because they do their job so well, we never have to think about it.
Thanks is the theme for the Glow Blue campaign throughout Crown Point this week. Streets will have a blue hue from the light of more than 1,000 blue light bulbs, a fitting color for the officers they honor.
Crown Point policemen, keep on doing what you do best, and that is keeping our city safe.
Campaign organizer Mark Wilkins is senior pastor of First United Methodist and also the chaplain for the Crown Point Police Department. He says the color from the free bulbs will be a beacon to show appreciation.
To pause and to recognize what should be obvious all the time, and thank them for the sacrifices they make.
With a sign in tow, Debbie Thill walked several blocks from her home to join the rally at the courthouse this week to thank Crown Point Police for saving her from an attempted break-in.
And a total stranger was standing there trying to get into my house. He was literally trying to push my front door open with his shoulder, and I was pushing from the inside trying to prevent him from getting in. Then like 30 seconds, 5 officers responded. And, oh, thank God, they took him down, like, immediately. I went to the next city council meeting and asked for them to be given the Employee of the Month award. 5 officers and the dispatcher, and they all got the award. Can't thank them enough. You can't thank every officer I see, just like every veteran I see. I thank them for their service. I tell them to be safe. They're just human, too.
Crown Point officers posed with their family members, both 4- and 2-legged, and said they'll be looking out for the lights.
I thought it was very nice, actually, with everything going on nowadays, with the perception that some people have of us. That it shows the community we're human, that we're no different than them. It's just we have a job sometimes that's hard, and we're personable, and we like to tell jokes and have fun and kid around just like everybody else. We're human beings just like everybody else. We're not, machines or robots or anything like that.
And the other side of that is my real hope. It is also an opportunity for these officers who exist sort of in a bubble of their own, to be able to hear the gratitude of the community that is so often does go unexpressed.
In Crown Point, Hillary Powell, Lakeshore Report.
In the 1960s, Chicago area growth and increased water usage began causing sewers to overflow into area waterways more than 100 days a year. City planners came up with a solution, TARP, the Tunnels and Reservoir Project. The second of 3 proposed reservoirs is set to come online this month. It involves one of the largest landmarks in the southern suburbs and one familiar to those who live and work in Northwest Indiana, the Thornton Quarry. The $429 million TARP project is about to change the quarry in a big way. Stephen Lattimore took a tour of the soon-to-be reservoir and gives us an inside look.
The Thornton Composite Reservoir, once it is finished, will be the largest of its kind anywhere in the world. Once it is completed, it will help divert overflow from sewers and prevent the water from making its way into people's basements. This massive hole, better known as the Thornton Quarry in the south suburbs just adjacent to the 80-294 Illinois Tollway, has been called in media reports the Grand Canyon of the south suburbs. According to the Encyclopedia of Chicago, since the 1830s, the Thornton Quarry has been a large source of limestone. The portion that now makes up the Thornton Reservoir is only a small fraction of the entire site. It's 300 feet deep. We had to drive down a carved-out road to get to the bottom. This is TARP, or Tunnel and Reservoir Project, also called the Deep Tunnel. This small section of the quarry is part of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago's master plan to deal with the overflow of stormwater and sewage.
Through that hole there, that you're going to get the flow from about 90 square miles from the south side of Chicago, and that includes about 14 local municipalities. That reservoir will hold the capacity of 7.9 billion gallons.
In the past, sewer systems would fill up with water, and with nowhere to go, they would go back up into the basements or run off into area waterways. The combination of excess water and raw sewage hurts the environment.
We have to put this online so that all the sewage and all the combined sewer come to this reservoir for the storage. When the dry weather allow us to pump this, or actually to get this flow to the treatment plants so that could be treated before getting into the waterways.
The treated water is then sent to the Illinois River. When the reservoir is full, it'll look like a giant bathtub.
All the way to the edge of the concrete dam, which is up there. The flow will be high as the edge of the concrete dam in the south side.
For some homeowners in the Chicagoland area, the relief will mean a savings of over $150 million in annual flood damage savings. $40 million of that will go to the south side and the south suburbs.
That's eventually, it will relieve most of the flood issues within the area around here.
When it comes online on August 15th, it'll be able to hold 7.9 billion gallons of water, or 12 Soldier Fields stacked on top of each other. In Thornton, Stephen Lattimore, Lakeshore Report.
The Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago is currently constructing the McCook Reservoir, which will be even larger than Thornton, holding 10 billion gallons. It will be completed in 2 stages in 2017 and 2029. Well, the calendar says it's time for the kids to be heading back to school, but the weather is still screaming summer. Hoosiers are taking every opportunity to enjoy the season, including soaking up that beautiful sun. Our own Michael Puente sat down with an expert to find out if the risk is worth the reward.
Thank you, Kristen. Well, summer is winding down, but there's still plenty of time to catch some rays at the beach or pool. Experts say keeping your skin protected is the key, and Dr. Omid Mimar is here to tell us how to do that. Thank you, Dr. Mimar, for joining us here on Lakeshore Report.
Thank you for having me.
Well, right off the bat, tell us, we were talking a little bit about skin cancer and melanoma. What is the biggest myth about skin cancer?
That it doesn't kill. Skin cancer can kill. Every hour, on the hour, one person dies of melanoma in this country. And a lot of that could be prevented by protection and by knowing how to protect yourself.
Well, it's summertime now. People are at the beaches. You see a lot of little kids out there. What are the best ways to protect yourself from getting skin cancer?
Well, according to the American Academy of Dermatology, there's a few, few things to do. One is don't seek the sun between the times of 10 to 2 p.m., 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Secondly, apply sunscreen and apply the right sunscreen, and that's a whole other topic. And do it on the hour, every hour when you're in the elements. Do it every half hour if you're going in and out of the water. And what sunscreen we use is significant because you want a sunscreen that protects broad spectrum. SPF is a misleading number, and you need to know more about a sunscreen than just its SPF.
Now, we're talking a little bit about how everyone who's even light complected to Hispanics and even African Americans are still susceptible to skin cancer. Is that correct?
Absolutely. The majority of skin cancer is seen in males above the age of 50. Yes, that's the great majority, but that does not exclude skin of color. In fact, patients with skin of color presenting with skin cancer present at a much later state than a Caucasian.
Now, what are some of the unique factors here in Northwest Indiana that can contribute to somebody being more susceptible to coming down with skin cancer?
Well, one thing is there may be a large rural element to it. So when you're in a rural environment, if you're a farmer or so, and the classic farmer's tan, chronic sun exposure for hours upon hours, is one of the leading causes of squamous cell carcinoma. Number 2 is well water. A lot of people in this region might use well water, and that has something called arsenic in it, or higher than average numbers, and that can cause squamous cell carcinoma. Other factors looser laws in Indiana about tanning beds. And that's another issue.
As far as protection, what are the, quickly, just one or two ways parents can be more persistent in protecting their children?
First of all, physically, hats, clothing that might be sheer but sun protective, and you can go online and search sun protective clothing that are sheer, long sleeved, and you can and that's a very good way of protecting. Sunscreens. You want a sunscreen that's at least SPF 15 to 30, and you want it to be broad spectrum. So broad spectrum means it covers both UVA and UVB, while SPF alone measures UVB. So you got to not just go by the SPF.
Well, I want to thank our guest, Dr. Omid Mimar, for joining us here today on Lakeshore Report with some great information. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Each year in the United States, nearly 800,000 people experience a stroke. Stroke is associated with declines in cognitive function, including memory and thinking speed. Although many patients experience these declines immediately after a stroke, a new study looked at whether cognitive decline also continues and even accelerates years after the initial stroke. Catherine Dolph explains in this week's JAMA Report.
David Rahman was at home watching TV when he had his stroke.
I couldn't close my hand. The right side of my face was numb.
He knew something was very wrong and went to find his wife.
I opened the door and tried to tell her that she should call the doctor. And it was just babble. I couldn't speak.
After his stroke, like many patients, David had immediate problems with memory and his ability to think clearly was impaired.
We have known that stroke is associated with cognitive decline over the short term. We did not know whether stroke is associated with declines in thinking speed and memory over the years after the event.
Dr. Deborah Levine from the University of Michigan and co-authors followed more than 23,000 people 45 years and older who participated in a national study. The participants were free of any cognitive impairment when they entered the study. Memory,
Apple table car,
and other aspects of cognitive function were measured at the beginning and at regular intervals throughout a 6-year follow-up period. 515 people experienced a stroke during the study period. The rest remained stroke-free.
Stroke is associated with significant long-term cognitive decline. Stroke survivors may experience decline in their memory and thinking speed over years after the event, not just right after the event.
The study appears in JAMA, Journal of the American Medical Association.
Our findings highlight why it's so important for stroke survivors and people at high risk for stroke to control their risk factors and to make behavior changes.
David is doing just that. He lost 61 pounds and continues to be monitored closely by his doctors. He also uses programs on his phone to help improve his memory and thinking speed.
I feel more energetic, happier. I do want to live a long time, and I'd like that to be as well as possible.
Catherine Dolph, the JAMA Report.
Stroke survivors warrant close monitoring to help detect declines in cognition years after their stroke. It's time now for The Times, our exclusive sneak preview of some of the top stories in this Sunday's Northwest Indiana Times. Occasionally, we'll talk to the reporters behind some of the stories in the state's second largest paper. This week, Times staff writer Giles Bruce examines how one hospital is providing a vital medical service and saving more lives in Northwest Indiana.
On Sunday, I'm looking at how Methodist Hospital's North Lake campus in Gary, how things have changed for them since they received a state designation as a trauma center. They're currently the only trauma center in Northwest Indiana. Traumatically injured patients were either being taken care of at their local hospital or transported to hospitals, trauma centers in the Chicago area, usually Oak Lawn. Sometimes they would go to Indianapolis or South Bend. A traumatic injury is generally a penetrating injury, something with a lot of blood loss. It's generally a motor vehicle accident, gunshot wound, knife wound, sometimes a heavy industrial accident. In the hospitals, specifically, Gary Methodist had been doing a lot of trauma cases prior to this, as had, many hospitals in the area. This new regulation, it basically standardizes their care. It forces them to have surgeons at the bedside within a certain amount of time. They have anesthesiologists 24/7. So it's kind of streamlining their trauma care. It's in the emergency room. They have a separate trauma bay where they take care of these cases. Doctors, nurses, they start getting scrubbed up, they start getting equipment ready. They first work to stabilize the patient, check for any blood loss, diagnose whether they can care for him there. If he needs surgery, he's promptly taken to the operating room and operated on. Otherwise, if he needs a higher level of care, he's transferred generally by helicopter to a Chicago area hospital. A couple other hospitals are in the process of applying with the state to be level 3 trauma centers. Some hospitals also have goals of being level 2 trauma centers at some point, but that's still years away. So this will keep more patients in Northwest Indiana.
For more information about this story, check out the Sunday's Times or log on to www.nwitimes.com. And don't forget, for more information on any of our stories, you can go to lakeshorepublicmedia.org. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you next time on Lakeshore Report.
Hi, joining me for this edition of Eye on the Arts is Nick Orbovich, who is the Artistic Director for the Michigan City Chamber Music Festival. I got all of that right.
Fantastic.
I know. That was pretty good, wasn't it?
Excellent. You're impressive.
So I asked you your title, and you told me that your title is Hidden Gems and Treasured Favorites, which...
I like to think that. I
yeah.
guess, yeah.
Well, you are a treasured favorite, Nick, absolutely, especially in Michigan City in the summer, in August.
Oh, thank you.
So this coming weekend, you've got the Michigan City Chamber Music Festival starting.
We do.
Tell me about these hidden gems and treasured favorites.
Well, in a way, this is kind of the programming any of us artistic directors might want to take on. Mm-hmm. As a musician, as an artist, we all have that one piece of music that we think is underappreciated, or we have 2 or 3. For some reason it just isn't played a lot. And so whenever we combine a lot of great musicians like we do, we all have that one certain favorite. As I started researching, going different places, asking friends for suggestions, there's a lot of hidden gems out there. And I mean not just things that have nice moments, I mean real masterworks that seem to have been just passed over for all kinds of reasons. Some of them not so good, some of them they just get passed over. And we are very proud to say we're presenting some amazing pieces of music in the next week. And in there are also some treasured favorites like Schubert Octet, Gershwin songs, things like that.
So you have multiple venues, multiple concerts over what, a 7-day period, more or less?
A 9-day period. We have 10 events, all free, all different. Yeah.
All free, all different. That's great. So, and the musicians come from where?
All over New York, Tennessee, Texas, Illinois. There were professors at SUNY, at University of Illinois, University of Tennessee. Have one from Florida. So they come from all over. And we have some from the area, from Chicago.
And you're not just doing this, they're not just doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They are paid.
Yes, they're professional musicians. They're high musicians, Grammy nominees, Gramophone Magazine of the Year award winners, things like that.
And this year you've commissioned a piece too.
We were very fortunate to be asked to be part of a consortium to present a world premiere by Libby Larsen, who is one of the top 5 female composers in the world. Had the pleasure of working with her in an orchestra and choir about 20 years ago. Just wonderful, warm human being and an amazing, brilliant musician. And so we are premiering, a world premiere, a trio for viola, clarinet, and piano called Ferlinghetti, based on the poet and activist Lawrence Ferlinghetti's works. And it's astounding. I was able to hear a rehearsal recording. Incredible. We are so fortunate. Other places where there's 8 premiere performances of it include New York, Austin, Texas, Los Angeles, and Michigan City, Indiana.
That's cool. Well, great. Good
Yeah.
luck with the festival.
Oh, thank you, John.
Yeah, have a good time.
Thanks, we will.
Thanks for being here, and thanks for watching. We'll be back again next week with another edition of Eye on the Arts.
Eye on the Arts is made possible in part by South Shore Arts, the Indiana Arts Commission, and the National Endowment for the Arts, a federal agency.